The agenda additions, is there any additions for the agenda?
The letter that's in front of you from Dr. Dina Henshaw, I'd like to read it into the record.
That would be under new business then? Or under
Consent agenda items.
consent agenda items?
0.2.
Anything else? Councilor Nixon?
Emailed everyone yesterday. The museum wondered if we had any comment about them opening, so we're having a meeting right away, so maybe we could have a brief discussion about that.
So that would be under this new business, I guess? 7.3. Anything else? Councilor Schulberg?
I'll move the agenda with the additions.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Carried? Okay. Minute approval from our May 13th, 2020 regular council meeting. Councilor Grover?
Move it.
Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried? No public hearings, no delegations, new business. 7.1, request for decision, re-2020 revised budget.
The same budget to you. Questions that you may have, but as we can't get confirmation from the provincial government anytime soon, that would change our tax rate bylaw. We'd like to move forward and get the tax notices out.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move first reading.
Questions?
This is the revised budget.
All the revised budget.
Just be,
I'll move it be accepted.
Okay.
As presented.
Councilor Nyberg?
So through, Mr. Chairman, through to administration, are we allowing anybody to defer their payments to for their taxes this year? Or what is our plan going forward here?
Well, what the provincial government has asked is that everyone defer their tax payments basically till October 31st. That is our regular due date. So we didn't have to do anything. In October, going forward, when I get a chance to take a look at how they're coming in, like how payments are coming in, if we're seeing people struggling, or if someone contacts us that they are, may come back to council and ask you to forgive the November 1st penalty. But I thought we would take a look at how things were progressing and then deal with it this fall.
Are we going to put in a notice to the ratepayers that is an option if there is issues that they're having troubles, that they should contact us?
We haven't done that directly, but I think we could. We definitely hinted to that. I know the government has definitely advertised that, but we could put something in when we send our tax notices out, we could put something in the package that says if you're experiencing difficulty, please contact them.
Sharon?
We do? Yeah.
You do?
Well, I've been there before.
Okay. Councilor Neitz?
So we're gonna put also in that package the explanation of why and what the government is asking for?
Well, that's something that I thought we would discuss a little bit more detail with the actual bylaw report that we did for the tax rate bylaw and what direction the council wants administration to move. If that's a convenient place. I think we would have to put something along with the tax notices, but I kind of think we should get ahead of the actual tax bills going on.
Councilor Grover?
I think that, I think we already go to the October 31st thing, which is one of the longer ones before we require payment. I think it's fair enough in the industry I'm in, and I think most of the beach owners and houses, and they pay the taxes. That isn't the ones I really worry about. But maybe you'll have to give them a little longer, but a lot of them, they collect them in June, so think we've already given quite an extension. Thank you.
Counselor Gender?
I think we could probably put a possibility, but I wouldn't set any rates or say where we're really gonna go. I would just soon if people really try for it, and then like if they do need help them. I just noticed the lighting. It's great.
Please remember to use your microphones as well, councilors. Yes, the lighting was done over the weekend.
Any other questions?
I know.
Counselor Stobart?
The, education portion of the 35% rollback part, was that just gonna be absorbed at this time? Or was it into the budget with, I guess, less spending, or was it something that would eventually come from reserves? If,
No, we were passing it directly on to the ratepayers.
oh, that one goes straight through, okay.
Counselor Grover?
Yeah, so then we're gonna put out these tax notices, and everybody's taxes is gonna be more money than they were last year.
The ones that,
But I think we should, just a second, I think we should put that we didn't raise the taxes at provincial government, and go ahead and explain it, but I think it should be in there.
yeah, and that, Councillor Grover, that's, the bylaw report with the tax rate bylaw is really in depth, and I think that it has a really good basis for a communication strategy going forward. But that is something that we want to communicate. The ones that are getting hit the toughest, the hardest, are the non-residential tax group, but it's mostly our moms and pops, right? The guy that has the welding shop, the gravel haulers, the fabricators, guys like that. They're going to see this increase because this is being passed on through the non-residential education tax requisition.
Counselor Gender?
So the government hasn't moved on this or $330,000 yet?
No, we spoke with our MLA in quite depth, and we also supplied him with a list of like a cheat sheet of points to bring up. I've been in contact with deputy ministers from municipal affairs, and then Larry worked with the RMA and Nate to see if we could get that the government should be responsible for their portion of the 35% shallow gas tax initiative, instead of expecting the municipalities and the ratepayers and the municipalities to pick up the whole deal. Like that 35% was roughly $820,000 of municipal taxes, which we are absorbing. Like we've had to reduce our budget by that much, plus all the rest of it. And you just naturally assumed that they would bring down the education requisition for their share. They didn't. This is why we're being hit so hard. Or we're not being hit, but our ratepayers are being hit so hard. So there would be an option for council if you wanted to donate to Alberta Education by making the remittance out of reserves for operations. But we've never done that before. We've always, whatever the bill has come from Alberta Education, that's what we send out to our ratepayers and collect. And we've already had to remit taxes that we can't collect and can't get back on the PERT program.
I just got to make a comment too from those conversations. The county of Stettler definitely has both the RMA's ear and the government's ear. It's just not moving too quick. From the government basis, it was going to go to a deputy minister meeting and try to come up with something to put onto into their package, so they would discuss it. And RMA is pushing things forward now. The part that I've really disappointed me is we're sitting number 7 or 8 on the list, and we've got other counties that are 1.3 million. We definitely will continue to be the squeaky wheel, but I don't understand why these other municipalities haven't raised their hand or raised their voice on this. So it is moving forward, but as Yvette says right now, I don't think we have to get this message out, and it's a good message to put out after if it is pulled. But right now it's still as it was listed.
Who's number 1 on the list?
Cypress, isn't it, or Newell?
Either Newell or the one up north, but Cypress is 1.3. And I talked to Terrelyn the other day, and I said, so what are you doing with this, right? And she said, we're passing it back on to the ratepayers. So, yeah, they're going to be collecting an extra $1.3 million off their ratepayers.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's still based on 2018 assessment,
Yes.
isn't it? Yes.
Prior to the government giving the 35% tax.
Right.
Shell gas tax.
What does it go to 19?
Well, that's kind of the problem is right now we're setting the mill rate, but 19's assessment didn't change because when they just across the board went with the 35% reduction, they didn't change the equalized assessment. And that's what we're complaining about so much is that the equalized assessment should have been adjusted for that 35% because our requisitions are still based on an equalized assessment that rolled over from 18 to 19 and it's overinflated.
So it'll be the exact 35% increase again in 19?
Pretty close.
On whatever assessed, our assessments went down in 19, of course. But
Right, they said they're not gonna change that until 2021 was what I understood, so.
So we're still getting hit, so it's 35% 19, 20, 21. Or 18, 19, and 20.
20 for sure.
So we're talking $1 million at 335,000?
It could. Some of this, the 165 is applicable to the Shell gas tax initiative. The rest is just that downturn in the economy, which the equalized assessment should recognize that next year. And so it should come down. But then we don't know if the provincial government's going to up their mill rate for education taxes, or if they were to keep it steady at today's rate, you would see the education requisition go down.
Councilor Grover?
I have a real problem with this. We pay $335,000 that we have to dig out of every ratepayer in the county of Stettler's pocket. And Clearview School District got an extra $1 million in their budget. I don't know, I'm not very good at math, I'm just a farmer.
And they donated $147,000 to the food bank.
Of our money? Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
But the problem
I
is,
know, I tell you what, I have a real problem with that, and our ratepayers that pay their taxes faithfully should have, we should just go nuts on that school board, as far as I'm concerned,
but you have to realize that
or their MLA.
our school taxes, even though we think it's one of the funniest things in the world is they keep sending out these notices. We have to send them out to everybody that purchases property. Are you a public school supporter or a Catholic school supporter? It means nothing, right? All our tax dollars, our education requisition goes into a pot, and then schools are funded on a per student basis. So it doesn't matter in that pot whether you're a public school supporter or a separate school supporter, it goes into this pot, and that's how it gets distributed.
I just don't think it's fair at all, and every person that pays taxes in County Stettler should know that.
Councilor Needs?
Just make a comment, it's not Clearview, it's the government in a way,
I
the
know.
state fund.
But they give them the money, Shirley.
Yeah.
They give them the money and they spend it and they donated $140,000 to the food bank of that money.
And the government told them to do that,
I know.
so.
And the next time they come for money from us, I'd say never in a million years. Thank you.
My original comment was, I think our reefs should get together with all the other reefs where this is really affecting and have a meetings.
That's part of what our MA is working on right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really important. I think our MA needs to do that really soon.
Councilor Denver?
Problem that I have with this is say, like, if we do pay it, we're setting precedent. They say, well, you paid it last year, it's gonna be paid next year. And if we put it into the kitty, how the hell are we gonna get it back next year? I would just soon not even pay the damn thing this year.
That's first.
Unfortunately,
Let's go up to Edmonton with pitchforks and torches. I'm with you, Ernie. I got your back, buddy.
if we're
I'll
credit,
provide the straw.
they take four
Or you
payments.
put her on their
for,
burden?
account March, June, September, and December for their education requisition. With all the COVID and stuff, they never stopped taking their requisition payments out of our account, which is almost $1 million a quarter. But if we try to hold that back, they'll just keep $363,000 off our MSI grant and call it even. So
The Alberta government, they're at the point where they don't care right now because they don't care because of COVID, you can't even protest it.
Andrew?
Specifically just to that is the town of Pinoka tried that once, and it didn't work out.
Ernie, we can only go with 14 people, by the way, just to let you know.
As long as they got pitchforks and stuff, that's good.
Councilor Needs?
I was gonna say the same thing, that if we don't pay, they just withhold in other areas, so it kind of backfires on us anyway.
But in all fairness, maybe it'll get their attention.
But you know, if it creates publicity.
Councilor Nixon's got his hand up, so. Councilor Nixon?
Just a question to that, so, and Krista, the money people, what would it be to each municipality if it were divided evenly amongst the municipalities instead of the 10 or 15 that are affected?
I had that figured out, I think it was 65%, that was one of the presentations that we made on March 31st, that if you're going to, decide that you're gonna help the oil industry and pull this 35% out, then distribute that, especially the education across the 72 rural municipalities. And I think it was 65,000 each that we would have had to pay, which is a lot easier to handle than what we're looking at. Yeah.
I don't think people, Mr. Chairman, I don't think people mind helping, because we know it's gonna be pretty tight before we get out of all this downturn. But I don't think it should be all put on one or two municipalities or half a dozen municipalities.
Yeah, and with that too, it's not just the rural municipalities, it could be all municipalities.
Absolutely.
When it comes to education. Okay. Do you think you can find that?
Probably not.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's important that we do have, and maybe it's an open letter in our tax, notices saying, basically laying it out what these increases. We have put a 0% tax increase on our people. You will see an increase for a number of reasons in your taxes. One, if the price of your property's gone up, and that's going to be affected. Two, if this 35% is explained that it's a federal or a provincial government download. RCMP, it's a provincial federal government download. And I think that's important that we put in it. And for me, I would like to see that happen because as a counselor, when ratepayer Joe phones me up and says, what the hell did you do with my taxes? I could say, we zeroed it out. And we've already said that. We've publicly stated that we've zeroed it. But yet my taxes went up $300. Yeah, I get it. But here's why. You know who you should be phoning? Here's Mr. Kenny, and here's the education minister, and here's Andrea LaGrange's phone number. Phone them, right? Phone Sonia Savage and say, yeah, you're protecting the oil and gas industry, but I work in the oil and gas industry, and now I'm being penalized.
Or I don't work in it now.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Councilor Nixon?
I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here because the preamble in the tax rate bylaw pretty much says that and says it very well in my opinion. And I think that letter needs to go out to the public. That those facts and figures in it. It's very much to the point and pretty much explains everything.
Councilor Nixon does have a motion on the table. We have had great discussion on this. If we can move forward.
I'll call the question.
All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, I'd actually moved 1 to 7.3, but I see 7.2, we don't have a question there. So 7, museum opening for a year. Councilor Nixon?
I got a letter from the museum yesterday and they just asked about if we had any comments about their opening, and they were wanting to open around June the 1st, I believe it was. I don't have the thing in front of me right now, but just wondered if there's any input from the county. Town of Stettler councillor thought there wouldn't be likely much business and it wouldn't hurt to hold them off a little bit. So I don't know, is it just, if there's any input from council, I'll take it back to the museum.
Councilor Stillberg and then Nyberg.
I would say it's time to get things opening up again, and it'll probably be very gradual because everybody's not jumping on the board with it. So I think people do need something to do, and I think if they're allowed to be open, I think they can. I have no problem with them opening June 1st.
Councilor Nyberg.
I'm in favor with him. I mean, the fact that they're not going to be that busy, they're the 5th largest museum in Alberta. I think you have lots of room to social distance in that particular museum. I've never been at a spot where, and I have visited the museum quite a bit, where you're running into people other than typically your own people. We have no cases in the county of Stettler. Everybody seems to go to Walmart and the grocery store and have no problem. So, I mean, by golly, let's get at her. I'm in favor of, let's get her back to going. Mr. Chairman, I have one other comment. I was asked the other day that garage sales are considered a regional system. Are we looking at opening up garage sales in the county of Stettler? They just asked me, this is the season. And from what they understood going on the Alberta website, it's by region if they are allowing it to happen. And I would be in favor of opening up garage sales as long as, again, the 15 minimum and 6 meter distancing. Or 2 meter distancing, 6 feet. Just a thought.
I've never had that question put to us, but I think it's something I'd like to pass on to Sherman and let them comment. Nikki might have some.
Yeah, we had addressed this earlier through SREMA, and that was when the province was recommending you hold off on garage sales. And we haven't received any new official recommendations from the province on garage sales, but
Apparently it was on June 1st that they're allowing garage sales, but it's done on a region by region basis, depending on what your municipality has determined as a deal.
So similar to playgrounds, so
Yes.
region by region. So SREMA has looked at the playground issue and is planning to follow suit with the town, opening playgrounds beginning this Friday, May 29th. And so I would suspect they're looking at the garage sale issue as well, and probably following suit with the town. So there's probably in discussions right now.
Could I get some follow-up then to all of council of that, just so I can answer this person's question?
We'll put that question to them and then we'll send
I'm in favor of opening them up myself. There's a lot of people got to get rid of their junk, I guess.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through to Nikki, what do they say about the museums? Is that are they on the list?
Yeah, they're on the list as when they're prepared to handle the cleaning requirements and the social distancing as with any business, then they're welcome to open. So, yeah.
The garage sale thing, if they do their social distancing, it's outside. If they do the social thing, I can't see no problem with it either.
So, Mr. Chairman, could we have just a straw poll, I guess, of the councillors to
Make it official, Mr. Nixon. I would go ahead and make it official that we, I'd like to make the motion that council send a letter to CIRMA that we are in favor of the museum opening on June 1st as per prescribed by the Alberta government's directions.
I think this letter, or pardon me if I can, I think the question's actually coming from the museum itself, not from SREMA.
Right, but they're the ones who are going to make the decision to allow them to open.
No,
So if we as
they have the protocol already, from the museum.
oh, okay.
So the museum's allowed to open.
Then send a letter or send a notice back to the, I don't know if it, send an email back to the museum that we are definitely in favor of them opening up June 1st.
And just, I'd state in it also though that all distancing.
Yeah.
Is in place.
That way they have it officially, they know that we dealt with it.
Any other questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. Okay, bylaw 10.1. Bylaw 1636-20 bylaw tax, 2020 tax rate bylaw, first, second, and third reading, page 28 of the package.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is our tax rate bylaw, and it's basically the same as when you saw it 2 weeks ago. We have done an in-depth bylaw report, which I think would be the basis of a communication that should go out in our tax notices. And also I'm wondering, and I know Nikki will run it on social media, but I'm also kind of wondering if we shouldn't get it out in some newspapers, like we did the, we're adjusting type of thing. I don't know if it's the full page ad, but I think, lots of people seem to, pick it up. He explains it, I think, very well. Our tax, rate bylaw has a bit of a new look to it. The provincial government is, just seems to be getting a little testy with municipalities that are, treating the police or the new policing requisition, which is what it is, as a requisition. They would prefer that we, nicely stick it into our municipal rate, that, we just tax for it and then remit it. But we want people, in our area, in our county, to know what they're paying for.
And Calgary, sorry, Mr. Chairman, but the city of Calgary did exactly the same thing. They have an actual 2-page mail out explaining all the increases and blaming it on who is responsible.
So we kind of changed.
They called it a police requisition.
Yeah.
Provincial police requisition.
So we kind of changed the way that we calculate the municipal rate, just so that we were doing everything right in case we get some kickback on it. I know I've talked to a lot of counties, especially the 15 that were greatly affected by that shallow tax initiative. This last weekend, they've all done the same thing. So yeah, this is so it's just got a little bit of a new look to it. I think it's very well done. Sharon and Andrew and everyone did a great job on this. So I'm recommending or asking council to pass it with the recommendation that we communicate to our ratepayers what's going on, both before they get their tax notice and in their tax notice.
Councilor Grover? It's nothing new to us. We do that now already for recreation in the town of Stettler. It's not like we dreamt this up just to take a shot at the provincial government. It's just our ratepayers should know exactly what they're paying for. Okay?
You dreamt it up.
Huh?
You dreamt it up when we were dealing with the town of Stettler.
In the general page here, like it says, council has been working hard. I would like to be able to see administration also, because like we brought it forward. And there's administration that did an awful lot of this work.
Absolutely, Mr. Gender, I agree 100%.
Well, thank you, but we're a team.
I would like to be able to see it put in there.
That's a very good point, Mr. Gender, absolutely.
I would also, one thing I'd like to see is that we talk about putting it out with our tax notice, but I think we need to put it out even in a letter form prior, so that they can look at it.
More than once.
Even if we send some example tax notices and highlight, have it highlighted where these costs are, so that people look at it and just don't pull out, open their tax notice, flip to that total at the bottom and then start hollering. So it might cost us extra postage and some time to do it, but I do think it's very valuable to get it out. Councilor Nixon?
I agree, Mr. Chairman, and as you may recall, I asked about that last meeting, and that was a ratepayer talked to me, and I was explaining to him that the taxes may go up because of these things, and he said, well, people need to be aware of that, and you're right, and they need to go into, I think it needs to be in a separate letter, because not everybody reads the paper, and not everybody
Goes on social media.
goes online, or on the website, so.
Also, just, if I could just add a comment, we did work with Brownlee on this. I just wanted to make sure that we were right. And also, Greg, we've worked with Greg now for 4 years. He's our lawyer that's helped us with collecting taxes from the oil companies. And he helped us with this. He also helped us when the RMA went to the first big press release about what was happening with the shallow gas. And he was able to comment for us. That was included in the article in the Calgary Herald and the Edmonton Journal about, how municipalities can't collect from oil companies. So we did run this by them. They basically certified us. So I feel very confident with the bylaw, and it's done really well. There seems to be, I think municipal affairs is maybe getting a little tired of the county of Stettler, and that's okay. We've been in their face a lot. I don't want to step back. If they don't like us or they're kind of mad at us, I'm okay with that. as long as somewhere down the line it benefits our ratepayers.
Counselor Nyberg?
And not that I'm nitpicking, but I'm just wondering, instead of introduce no increase, put zero increase. That's just a formality.
That's pretty nitpicky.
I know it is. I'm being the other gender now.
Any other discussion?
I'd like to move first reading, Mr. Chairman.
Questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. Counselor Stillberg?
I'll move to second reading.
Any further questions, concerns? All in favor? Carried. Counselor?
I'll move us to third.
Or we need to vote to take.
Proceed to third.
Move us to third, yeah.
Move it to third.
And all in favor? Carried. Okay. Any questions, concerns? All in favor? Carried.
You hit the button, sure.
Thank you. Okay, we have consent agenda items, Minister of Municipal Affairs, March 31st teleconference, page 34 of our package.
Mr. Chairman, this is the response we got back from Municipal Affairs, both to us and Starline County, for the presentation we did at the end of March about some of the issues that were affecting us. Pretty standard answers.
Councilor Nixon?
Just a comment, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure that the minister gets it. You know, I'm sure you can explain to some of the deputy ministers, and they may understand, our MLA understands, but I'm not too sure that the minister himself is getting the points that we're trying to put across.
Councilor Nyberg?
Through to administration, we'd had that conversation about that 170 million. We did finally get the details, or some more of the details. There is some money coming through the lodge program through our LAP grant. We're talking, I mean, there's indications that maybe it's going to be $3 a day kind of thing. Not a big deal, but it is going to help our bottom line. We haven't finalized all the details, but that $170 million announcement that they were giving to seniors should help alleviate us somewhat, but we're still not sure to what extent. So just to follow up with you, Ed, on that.
Councilor Nixon?
Through to Mr. Nyberg, is that federal money?
No. That's a provincial.
Councilor Norwood?
But funny how they never announce it $3 a day. It's always 1.7 million. What do you? Yeah.
Like 170 million over the, yeah.
$3 a day, they wouldn't get much publicity out of that, would they?
It helps pay for some masks.
Well, and this 19 thing has cost that lodge a lot of money though, James, extra.
A ton of money.
Extra cleaning, extra that $3 a day was a spit in the bucket.
That's what I said, and we're still not 100% on the details.
And you might not even, how much you're getting
It
that.
might be $1.90.
Which will never, the extra cost of running it in the situation they're in is horrendous. The cleaning and everything else. But we take what we get, I guess, or we fight.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Councilor Gender, you'll move to accept for information?
Yes, please.
All in favor? Carried.
Just for the record, I'm with you, Mr. Nixon. I'm sure they're picking up what we're putting down.
I think there's not too many people who argue that, actually.
No, and actually our administration have done a great job presenting the case
Yes, they have.
over the past year or two, and just.
And that's what I said with this, with us sitting 7th or 8th on the list, it's hard to understand that we're the only one raising our hand. But we are, and it's well recognized, I guess, again, maybe good or bad in some cases.
Mr. Chairman, would you like us to go on the camera now?
No, we've got one more consent item, yeah.
One more comment on that.
But the deputy minister understands a little more, does he not?
Well, there's several deputy ministers for municipal affairs, but there is, one Ethan Bain. He is a deputy minister to municipal affairs.
But he makes more sense.
He's in charge of assessment, and Ethan has a great background to assessment. I feel that he, at least when you talk to him, he knows what you're talking about, and he, helps you work through that process. So Ethan's been a great contact for us, and I appreciate everything he's done.
They felt that they've got through the chief of staff, too, that they really got through it this last meeting, so that's what's supposed to carry it to the next meeting. The minister was in there for about 5 minutes and left. Council needs.
Well, I feel like we're doing exactly what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be wise stewards of the tax dollars that we collect. And if we feel like the government doesn't understand or is overtaxing us, that is our job and our responsibility to go to them and let them know how it affects us. So I think we're supposed to be doing that, and all the other counties who it's affected, they should be doing that too for their ratepayers.
Councilor Nixon?
That's, Mr. Chairman, that is true, but, we gotta also be careful. People gotta be careful what we ask for, like more policing, which is gonna cost us a pile of money and maybe not have the benefit that the smaller municipalities wish to have, so.
Okay, addition, was 12.2 letter from Dr. Hinshaw.
And I, put this letter in front of you today. We just got it this morning. But Nikki asked if we would read it into the record for anyone listening to our, council meetings. So do you want to read it into the record, Nikki?
Sure. We have been getting some questions, just in regards to media and what we're going to allow here when we do open up to the public. And we do have some constraints in this room because we have to be 6 feet apart. And so I think we've calculated the maximum in this room to be 14, about 14 people. So for the time being, that would not provide for a room for the media to attend our meetings. And then we received this letter. It's from Dr. Dina Hinshaw, and it says, to municipal council and committee meetings is the subject. Thank you to those who participated in the municipal telephone town hall last week, and most importantly, thank you for taking the necessary steps to keep your community members healthy as we work together to stop the spread of COVID-19. Since our last meeting, I have received a few questions about whether or not the restrictions on outdoor gatherings also apply to municipal council and committee meetings. I would like to clarify that similar to the provincial government, municipal council and committee meetings can take place in person with more than 15 people in one indoor location, as long as physical distancing of 2 meters can be maintained between participants. In addition, high-touch surfaces must be cleaned and disinfected regularly, good hand hygiene should be encouraged, and hand sanitizer should be available for participants. It is also important that there is a mechanism in place for ensuring anyone who is ill does not attend in person. At this time, public attendance at council meetings should continue to be facilitated through virtual means. All workplaces, including municipal governments, are expected to develop and implement policies and procedures to address COVID-19. General workplace guidance for business owners reopening or continuing operations are available on Alberta Biz Connect at www.alberta.ca/biz-connect.aspx. Thank you for your continued efforts as we work to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Yours truly, Dr. Dina Hinshaw, Chief Medical Officer of Health.
Councilor Silver?
Just one thing, I guess for clarification, when Nikki read the letter into the record, she just accidentally said outdoor instead of indoor gatherings right at the start. If it confuses anybody, it's the indoor gatherings that they're talking about here. Yeah, no problem.
Councilor Grover?
Receive it for information.
Any other questions or concerns?
All in favor? Councilor Nyberg, no to you?
I was there.
No, to you. You were gonna move us to camera before.
Yes, I will move us into camera again.
All in favor?
word it as simply as, you know, for administration to proceed to negotiate as per the offer that was presented.
Yep. Or we go that way.
You don't need to name it.
I make that motion.
I don't think we need to name it.
Not yet, because you'll see it at least once more with the bylaw and the formal offer when we've got everything shown.
Dave's making the motion.
I'll make a motion. To move forward? To move forward.
Yep.
Questions, concerns? All in favor? Carried. And then on the graders,
To accept the JP, I don't have it in front of me.
JPH.
Yeah, with the $105,000 non-refundable deposit.
Council Stolberg,
I'll make that motion that we accept the JPH equipment offer on the graders with a down payment, non-refundable down payment of $105,000.
questions, concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Councilor Nyberg's opposed. Carried. Next meeting, Wednesday, June 10th, 2020. We had a request for delegation, but with how we're running our meetings, do they have to call in by video or call in?
How many are they coming?
Two. But it's public. We said it's not open to the public though, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'd find it a little easier to be equitable if we get them on the phone, or through a video conference if that was their intent. But it is ultimately council, you set your own rules and your own procedures, so.
Who's coming in?
Chapman's, Lee and Sarah Chapman wanna come in about, Bayview Street.
So they're one person anyways, right? Cause they're one family? It's not like they're two people, so they can sit beside each other and Rick doesn't have to be here.
Come to this door and leave through this door.
I'm just saying, I don't care either way. It doesn't matter to me. I'm open and easy either way.
It's just as we read this, I feel that maybe if we aren't open to the public, we aren't open to the public until we are.
But every circumstance should play it. Like if you wanted to bring a delegation of 5 people unrelated, maybe not. But if you want to bring, a family of 3 or 2, we can accommodate you. It's what we can accommodate, right?
We'll discuss through it and then on agenda setting,
Yeah.
Okay. How's the agenda?
And we just recommend, say like, when they be screened, say like with a temperature and,
You have that here, so. Councilor Grover?
I think we should just put them on the video.
Councilor Stolberg?
And is there a timeline for opening the administration office to public? Not yet.
I put it in, yeah, I put it in the staff notes that we are not planning to open the Public Works facility in the foreseeable future, but the administration is looking at opening mid-June at the very earliest. We're gonna reevaluate as things go on.
So, Mr. Chairman, that being said, how are you going to have people pick up their trees?
Just like with Strychnine, they will be phoning them individually and arranging pickup.
And with the public works, it's got to do with COVID and exposure, and they are responsible more for essential services than we are. Even though I think paying your tax bill is really important, but, so you limit that exposure, but the other thing too is the staff. I don't have the staff out there. We lost 22 positions when we couldn't bring back any seasonal staff. And we've got 2 girls that were basically doing administrative duties out in the field. I'm not making this stuff up. I had the director of operations running the water truck, 3 times now? And I've had the assistant director of operations running a gravel truck. I mean,
You got long arms, you're reaching the bottom of the barrel.
we're doing whatever we have to do to get things done. And, and sometimes it's, you might see, Nikki and I running the lawnmowers at the administration office. That's where we're at, and like
I totally follow your line of thinking.
yeah. So I'd like to keep that one as tight as I could, basically because of staff, and they are more geared to essential services, and then gradually open up this one, and so want to get staff back, we're bringing all the event stuff back to because they've been out of the office to keep the distance, so we'll bring them all back to the building. We'll see how that goes. We've got the screens coming, the plexiglass screens, see if staff's comfortable, and then, phase 2 of the provinces opening up criteria should be going. If cases don't go up, then I think we're probably good to go. If they start spiking, staff might be really uneasy with, opening the door.
Council needs?
Have we been able to get any of those summer grants for the summer students?
Oh, we're waiting with bated breath, like every day we're on the phone.
We got some people, do we have kids lined up, sorry, do we have kids lined up?
Okay, well, we've got from last year and, are we on are we on?
Yes.
Oh, okay. We had a job opportunity, come up at a part-time job opportunity come up through Stettler Waste, and I mean, I think they advertised it, one day on Facebook, and
It
had,
was maybe 2 hours.
yeah, a multitude of, applications that we've hired, so.
Hired.
Yeah.
Imagine, Randy doesn't wanna work on Sunday afternoon in Erskine.
That's a tough area to hire for though.
Yeah, yeah, so, I mean, if people they're watching our webpage, if anything comes up, people are jumping on it.
That's a good thing.
Okay. So one last item on our agenda. Item 15 would be adjournment. Oh, sir.
Oh, yes.
Give you that.
You got it, you got me.
You got me.
All in favor?
Sleeping.
All in
Now,
favor?
don't make you talk, Gary. Here, we're getting